Is up, flockers? That is my fellow lockers and aspiring lockers. I'm going to have to wait until my feed kicks in so I can make sure that my sound is okay and that my angle is okay, because I don't want y'all, I don't know, I can't see if I'm giving y'all the right angle or not. So give me just a second. Oh, okay, we are. All right. We're good. We are good. Okay, so now that we got that out the way, today I wanted to go ahead and just talk about why I decided to switch from traditional locks to Microlocs, kind of my hair journey in general, and just where it's led to today. So if I'm starting from the beginning, uh, I have a cousin who is a year older than me, and growing up, he always had cornrows. And in between him having his cornrows, he would let his fro out, take the braids out, and let the fro out. And I always liked the way his hair looked. And I was always like, man, I want to have longer hair. I don't want to always just have a buzz cut. And so he was kind of my inspiration for wanting to grow my hair out in the first place. But me and fros just have never been friends. We've never been able to make it work. And so, I would grow my hair out a little bit and combing my fro with the pick and just ripping through it, not really taking the time to make sure that I was combing it properly or anything like that, not making sure that I wasn't ripping through it. So when it was short, it wasn't a big deal. But as it got longer, having to learn to take care of it and comb my hair in ways that I wasn't ripping through my hair was always a thing. And then there were times that I would do cornrows, but I don't feel like I'm a tender-headed person, but anytime I have a style or anything that's putting tension on my scalp, I become super tender-headed. I get headaches and just the little bumps on your scalp that raise up when your hair is pulled. And so cornrows have never been something that I was able to wear long term. I get them done and then a day later I'm ready to take them out just because my scalp was on fire and things like that. So trying to grow my hair out and have cornrows didn't really work for me. But then when I got older and I was in college, I was like, okay, I'm ready to lock it up. I'm ready to do this. I had some other friends who had locks already. Jerome, who I've had on this channel before, I just recently posted a clip of a video that I had done several months ago with him. He was on his lock journey for 10 years, so he was one of the reasons. And then also my friend Kristen, who to this day still has locks and her locks are super long. But they were the initial reasons for me wanting to start lock journey. Now we live in Atlanta, so there's tons of people in Atlanta with locks, but they were personal people that I knew that had locks that I could look at and be like, oh, okay, I see how your locks are maturing, how they're progressing, how you look with locks. And so for me, it felt real when I saw those people that I knew with locks and knew that it was something attainable for me myself. So I did a couple of lock journeys um, where I went and had someone do the locks for me and got them done. They were traditional. All of my lock journeys, I've always felt like my locks looked nice. And over the years, I've done several variations. Like I said in previous videos, I've done locks where it was all my hair. I've done locks where it was lock extensions. I've done the instant lock method. I've done two-strand twists to start my locks. I've done comb coils to start my locks. And yeah, so I've done locks with an undercut. So I just had like the high top on the top with my locks. And each journey I have thoroughly enjoyed. I've thoroughly loved the way that my locks looked. But I don't know. After, if you count all of my lock journeys, so the first lock journey I was on, I had them for 6 years before I combed that set out. So if you take that 6 years and then you add up all the other 4 journeys that I've been on previous to this one, it probably would equal to about 10, 8 to 10 years worth of having locks. Excuse me. And so I just love locks. I love the way it looks. Like I said, I love having longer hair. I was tired of having to do the buzz cuts and stuff. Um, Little full disclosure, but I got a lot of scalp skin. I don't even know, that doesn't even make any sense, but like my scalp, like you could probably see right here, but I just, for whatever reason, God gave me extra skin on my scalp, and so when my hair is buzzed or short, you know, in a fade or whatnot, if you go like this to my head, I have a friend who he calls me hot dog head, because literally when you do like this to my head, I got like the bulldog wrinkles in my head, and so I've just never loved myself with the buzz. Nah, I keep saying buzz cut. That's not with the a fade or anything like that. I feel like I look good with it. I just prefer myself with longer hair. And so after doing so many traditional lock journeys, I was just ready to have a new look, you know, something that was different than what I had done before. Um, and so that was the first reason that I was like, let me try micro locks, because I've done traditional locks so many times. Do you have any pictures of your old sets? I do. I've got videos on my channel with I don't have any pulled up right now, and I'm recording on my phone where I would be able to look them up. So I'm sorry I don't have any pictures to show of my old sets. But I do have a video on this channel that's, I think it's listed, or I think it's called like Lock Journeys or something like that, where I do have pictures from all my different lock journeys where, you know, I had the little tiny Cheeto locks and starter locks and all of that. So I do have pictures and stuff like that that I have, and I need to make a new one, an updated one. But yeah, so I, you know, have had starter locks where they started out with just a couple of inches of hair and it's grown down. And, you know, my locks got down to like chest length at one point before I decided to comb them out. So, like I said, my first reason for switching from traditional to micro locks was just that I wanted to try a different look. I tried so many other, you know, everything except for freeform and semi-freeform. I felt like I had tried with traditional locks. And so I really wanted to try doing a set of locks that wasn't traditional, just to see how I liked it, see how it went. So I really was like, let me try this. And, you know, I had never done braids as a starter method. And so I was like, let me do braids, because at the time I wasn't that uh, well versed on interlocking. And so I was like, I can do braids. You know, interlocking would take some time, it would take some serious mastering or whatever. This is what I was thinking at the time. Now looking back, I'm like, I could have done it. But I'm glad I started with braids. But yeah, so I knew braids was something that I could do. I could plait my hair up and do it on my own without having to have help. So I decided to go for that with a different look. I'm so happy that I did. I've loved my micro locks and just all the different things that it brings. I've loved all of my lock journeys, but this one just brings a whole different set of things that the other lock journeys haven't, just in their nature of being smaller. And so that was, like I said, the first reason was simply because I wanted to try a new look and have something different. Uh, and it was also appealing to me when I was going and doing research about micro locks, just the fact that they could mimic loose natural hair. Because before I decided to do this set of locks, I honest to God was like, okay, I'm not gonna do locks anymore. I've done locks a lot of times before. I'm just gonna rock my loose natural hair. I'd watch tons of people on YouTube and I'm like, I feel like I would look good with the wash and go. So I grew my hair out for like a year and a half, and my hair got to a length where it wasn't just a, you know, circular fro, but it was starting to have a little bit of, not like drop, but it had a little bit of something to where it wasn't just, like I said, a circular fro. Uh, and I quickly learned that the wash and go, it wasn't a wash and go. You know, you could wash it, but the amount of time that it took to detangle, to deep condition, to pre-poo, even though, you know, pre-poo for some people isn't necessary, um, the amount of time that it took to do the wash and go after all the products that I was having to slap in my hair, and then trying to find the right combinations of products to make it work so that it wasn't getting flaky and stuff. It was just so much work and effort that was going in, and I just felt like it wasn't worth it. But I'm like, I don't want to cut my hair off because I like having longer hair. So that's how I got back to this lock journey, because I was like, nah, I'm done with locks. I'm just gonna rock my loose natural hair and let it get long. But like I said, cornrows don't work for me because I get too tender-headed when I have cornrows, and my scalp is super flaky and gets itchy. So within 2 days, I'm having to take the cornrows out. Otherwise, my scalp is on fire and I get headaches trying to sleep on it. So it wasn't working having loose natural hair. Uh, but I wanted something that, like I said, could mimic loose natural hair. So something that's been cool with micro locks is that they can mimic loose natural hair, whether you have a braid out or even when they're straight. You know, there's times where it just looks like loose natural hair, whether it be a wash and go look that it's mimicking or whatever. But I think it's really cool that Microlocs and Sisterlocks can mimic that loose natural hair. The third reason that I wanted to switch, which isn't even necessarily a reason of switching from traditional to Microlocs, because you can do the same thing with traditional locks, but I really wanted to try interlocking as my maintenance method. So for all of my traditional locks that I've had, regardless of whether I started it with my own hair, whether I used extensions, whether I did a crochet method for instant locks or two-strand twist or comb coils, no matter how my starter method was for my traditional locks, I always used palm rolling or retwisting for my maintenance method. It was quick, it was easy, I could do it on my own. Just, you know, it worked for me. I like the way that it made the locks look as they matured and formed, but there was always something in the back of my mind that was like, man, as much as you sweat and as much as you need to wash your hair because of my dandruff issues, like I said, this type of maintenance just wasn't working for me because I was having to wash my hair too often. I was sweating too often. I would want to go swimming or do just things that weren't working for retwist, whether I was using gel or not, especially when I wasn't using gel. Because when I was doing water only or water and oil retwist, they just weren't lasting for me with my hair. So, like I said, in the back of my mind, I was always like, man, it would be really nice to use interlocking as a maintenance method. But I just never did with my traditional locks. So that was another reason I wanted to switch, because I wanted to have a style that interlocking was just normal, where it wasn't even a thought for me to be like, well, you know what, I'm kind of lazy and don't feel like interlocking, so let me just go ahead and retwist. I'm not retwisting these 300 plus locks. I'm not. It's too much work for it to last for a couple of hours or for a couple of days and then for it all to unravel. So I love interlocking. I love that it gives me several weeks of not having to worry about my locks, of them not untwisting. Hi, how are you? I love, yeah, that I don't have to worry about, I can do my hair, I don't have to worry about it. I can go swimming, I can wash my hair multiple times a week, I can sweat, I can go out in the rain, and it does not affect my maintenance at all. It doesn't affect my hair. You know, I don't have to worry about that. If I need to get up and go to the store in the middle of the day or go hang out with friends and I'm only halfway through, I'm not having a bunch of clips in my hair that I'm sitting and trying to get up under a dryer or something with. I can get up and go whenever I want. You know, I finish interlocking that one lock and then I move on. And I can't get back to it for several hours or several days, which has never happened, but it's not like it's a big deal. It's not a deal breaker. Whereas I wouldn't want to go around with half my head retwisted and the other half not retwisted. So that's been a huge benefit and a reason why I wanted to switch to Microlocs. Uh, the fourth thing on my list of reasons why I wanted to switch from traditional locks to Microlocs is the time that it takes for my hair to dry and the fact that it is lighter. Now, that seems kind of crazy because it's like it's the same amount of hair. So how is it lighter and how does it dry faster? I don't know all the science and the ergonomics that go behind it, but when your locks are smaller, obviously that part makes sense. They're smaller, so they're lighter. You know, they're more free flowing or whatnot. So you know they can blow in the wind and all that stuff. You can get your little herbal essence commercial moment, Pantene Pro V with your hair blowing in the wind, more than with your thicker, heavier traditional locks. But they're also uh, they're lighter. So when they get wet, you know, when my traditional locks, especially when they were longer, when they would get wet, I could feel it. Like it wasn't to the point where I was having neck issues. I've never had locks down to my butt or lower. So maybe, you know, people that have locks that long when they're wet, maybe it does bother their neck. But it would be heavy when it was wet. You know, I'd come up out of a pool or the ocean or whatnot, or when it was washing, and my head just felt weighed down. With these, my head feels so light, it doesn't feel weighed down. It almost feels like I don't have any hair on my head at all when it's wet, to be honest with you, because they're so light. Um, I know people who never wash their traditional locks because they despise the drying time and heavy hair. See, that's what I'm talking about. Yes, it does. And for me, someone who washes my hair about twice a week, sometimes I would go longer when I had traditional locks to avoid it, but I shouldn't have because it was messing my scalp up. But yeah, I would wash my hair in the dry time with my traditional locks. It could take all day long sometimes for my traditional locks to dry. Sometimes 2 days, if it were cold outside, wintertime and whatnot. With these, I wash my hair, and even during the wintertime, because you're like, well, what about when you wash your hair and you need to go somewhere? I've washed my hair and let it air dry. I put a t-shirt on. If you've seen my wash videos or whatever, I always dry my hair with a t-shirt and I'll wrap it around so it sops up most of the water. But my hair probably air dries in the summer, if I'm out and about and it's hot outside, in like 20 or 30 minutes. And then in the winter, it might take a couple of hours, but it's not wet wet. It's hard to explain it, but it's like damp, but it dries quickly, and I'm not afraid that I'm going to get pneumonia or get sick, being out in the elements with my hair being super wet because it's lighter and it just dries so much faster. So that's a huge pro of Microlocs. And I'm in no way trashing or downing traditional locks because, like I said, I've had several traditional lock journeys and I've loved each and every one of them. I'm just saying that this is a factor that has made it a lot easier. And when it comes to time management and stuff like that, I don't have to plan and try to be like, okay, I need several hours for my hair to dry before I can go anywhere. Like, no, if I need to wash my hair and run out the door, I can do that. Now, if I'm gonna be outside for several hours, I'm not gonna wash my hair, in the middle of winter, knowing that I'm going to stand outside at a parade or something. But if I just need to run and grab some milk and eggs or whatnot, and my hair's wet, I can do that because I know in the car I can have the heat on and I'm only outside for a couple of seconds. So that's been a really huge benefit of the Microlocs with them being lighter and drying faster. Um, Ah, this next one, the fifth one on my list, is the fact that I'm able to lift off more dandruff and cleanse my scalp and my hair better. So, with traditional locks, um, again, I've had scalp issues since I can remember, seborrheic dermatitis, and that's to the point where like if you were to get a comb and scratch, sometimes you can get like big flakes off my head. Okay, well that's great when your hair is loose, natural, and you can go in and scrape with the comb and get these big flakes off and comb them out. When you have locks, obviously you can't comb through the length of your hair to get these huge flakes out. And so when I had traditional locks, um, you go into wash and there's only so much you can do because if this is one lock for me, all right, and all this space right here is under the root of one lock, okay? So when I'm washing and scraping, like it's hard to explain. Those who know, but when you're in there, like there's only if I got a big old chunk of dandruff in there, I can't get it out from here because I can't get in there well. All right. But when it's individual tiny locks like this, there's a lot smaller space for me to get in and get that dandruff out. And so when it comes to dandruff and cleansing my locks, I really do feel like I've been able to cleanse my locks a lot better and cleanse my scalp a lot better and get the dandruff not completely, because I'd be lying if I said I got every speck of dandruff out and none of the dandruff stayed in my locks. I'd be lying. I'm not going to sit up here and lie to y'all. But I get a substantially larger amount of the dandruff out of my locks, out of my hair, and I'm able to cleanse on a completely different level than I did when I had traditional locks. Now, maybe if you let your traditional locks, the roots grow out so much, like to a point where you have a ton of new growth and you can really get in there and like separate it, but I was probably retwisting my hair every 4 to 6 weeks when I had traditional locks, and so I never had enough new growth to really get in there and cleanse my scalp in the same way that I'm able to cleanse it now. So, like I said, I really like being able to feel like my scalp and my hair is clean. Um, and with locks, we already have that stigma where people think that locks are dirty, people that wear locks are dirty, that we don't wash our hair. And so I'm the opposite of that. I'm like, I wash my hair 2 times a week. In the summertime, if I'm doing a lot and sweating a lot, I might wash my hair 3 times in a week. It just depends. So you're not gonna catch me and be calling me dirty and stuff like that because my locks stay on clean mode. Um, all right, the sixth reason, do you deep condition? I do deep condition. Or oh, sorry, no, I don't deep condition, not regularly. I condition my hair every single time I wash. So whether it's once a week or twice a week, I use conditioner, but it only stays on my hair for about 2 or 3 minutes while I'm washing the rest of my body, and then I rinse it out. So I don't leave it on for a long time because within that 2 to 3 minutes, I feel like it gets my locks soft enough and my hair soft enough to where I feel good and my hair feels moisturized and it doesn't feel stripped anymore after, scrubbing it with shampoo. But I will go in a couple of times a year and do like a hot oil treatment. Because I believe, you can deep condition not just with conditioner, but also with oil. So I'll do a hot oil treatment with my, I don't think I have it in here, but I have one of those soft hooded dryers. So I'll put, some oil in my hair, like more than I would normally put, a lot of oil so that it really gets into my scalp and my hair, my locks. And then I'll put a shower cap on, and then on top of that, I'll put the hooded dryer that attaches to my blow dryer. And I'll sit there for like 30 or 45 minutes just so that I can allow that to happen. Actually, I need to do that soon. Maybe I'll make a video on that. I made one a long time ago when I did it last, but it's probably about that time to do another hot oil treatment, deep conditioning, because it has been a minute. And yeah, it just, like I said, your locks feel softer. They feel just nicer and more moisturized afterwards. So that's one way that I deep condition. I also use a steamer from time to time. So even when I'm not doing the hot oil treatment, I'll use my facial steamer and run it through my locks so that it opens up the pores on my locks, and I'll put oil on top of that to kind of seal that in, and that also helps. But similar results, but different in, I guess, how much of a result you get. With the steamer, I'm not doing it as long as I'm doing the hot oil treatment, so it's not going to get, excuse me, as soft. But so yeah, but I've never done a deep conditioning with conditioner where I'll let conditioner sit on my hair for like 30 minutes or an hour or anything like that. I just don't feel the need to, but I don't see, depending on how far along your hair is and if it's locked well, that you could do that if you wanted to, with conditioner. So maybe one of these days I'll give it a try, but I've just never liked having to let conditioner sit in my hair, and then having to get back in the shower to wash it out. So I find other ways to deep condition that work for me. All right. So number 6 on my list for reasons why I switched from traditional to Microlocs is just the different styles that Microlocs can achieve, or different looks. And I feel like this is twofold because it goes both ways. There are certain styles that look better with traditional locks, with your locks being thicker and fuller to just give a better look. And then there's other styles that are better achieved on Microlocs. So it's a give and a take. I feel like like I said, there's certain things that when you see someone with traditional locks rock it, you're like, wow, that looks really good, and it really accentuates the locks and the style. Like, it just works for traditional locks, where if you tried to do it with Microlocs, it's not going to look the same. It wouldn't look bad, but it wouldn't have the same effect. And I feel that same way with Microlocs. If you're trying to achieve styles that you might want to achieve with your loose natural hair, for example, sometimes Microlocs are going to give you that more flexibility to get that style, to keep it small, to keep it, dainty, petite, or whatever. And then also for it to still look like loose natural hair when the style is done. You can do cornrows, or you can do flat twist. Whereas if you have traditional locks, your flat twist rows, the smallest you may be able to get them might be, an inch and a half. Whereas with Microlocs, because they're smaller, you could probably do half an inch. And so you could have a lot smaller sections when you're doing your cornrows or flat twist or whatever you choose to do. So it does give you that flexibility and that option. And like I said, it gives a different look to lock styles. Whereas with traditional locks, they look like locks when they're styled. And that's part of the beauty of that. And then with Microlocs, when they're styled, you can style them and have them look like your loose natural hair in a style. And that's the beauty of that too. So again, just wanting to try new things, wanting something different than I've had before, but something that I can manage on my own. So Microlocs have worked really well for me in this journey and in this season of life that I'm in now. Number 7 reason on my list, which isn't one that I would say was in my mind at the time, but now that I've had them for almost 2 years now, I've seen this and able to experience it on my own. But I would say number 7 on the list is getting to expose the world to Locs in different forms, and you have the opportunity to educate people if you want. Now I realize not everybody wants to have folks asking them questions about their Locs. Not everybody is in the education business, and I get that. Sometimes you're not here for it. Get somebody else to do it. I get that. But it's nice, like I said, to introduce the world, and not introduce as in like it's the first time, but introduce in the sense that with more people wearing Sisterlocks and Microlocs, now the world, society is able to see Locs in a different form. A lot of times it's been the traditional Locs or the freeform Locs that people have seen, and that's their association with Locs. And so in movies, I've talked about this in previous videos, but the association with Locs, whether it be with, a lot of times it's with negative things, it's gang activity, it's drugs, it's all sorts of things that are negative that people have put associations with this and Locs. And so then you see somebody with Locs and you're like, oh, this person must be this type of person because they've got Locs, or oh, they must be unclean or not wash their hair often because they have Locs. So with Sisterlocks and Microlocs, I feel like it's cool because the world is now seeing it on a larger stage. And when people come up and they're like, oh, I like your hair, like what is that? And you can say like, oh, these are Sisterlocks, or oh, these are Braidlocs. And then they're like, well, what is that? Are those dreadlocks? And you can, if you're willing, you can have those conversations with people to explain, this is what's in my head. This is, the way that my hair is growing because I've manipulated this way and, use interlocking. And so it's a conversation starter. It's something that brings curiosity because people want to know. It's not what most people are accustomed to seeing and used to seeing. You have Ketanji Brown, Justice Ketanji Brown, who's on the Supreme Court, who has Sisterlocks, and you've got other people in media and stuff who are starting to be there. And so now there can be a shift in how people view Locs, and a shift in realizing that just like people, our hair is not a monolith. Our hair comes in different forms. Locs come in different forms, colors, shapes, sizes. So it's really neat to be able to show people that Locs aren't just one thing, and people with Locs aren't just one thing. You can't put people with Locs in a box because people with Locs are all encompassing. We all come from different walks of life. We all have different life experiences, and probably 85 to 90% of people with Locs aren't even anywhere near associated with any of the stuff that society and movies and Hollywood has associated Locs with. So I'm all about giving Locs a good name, making it more acceptable, making it more mainstream, and just, I guess, to where when you show up to a job interview, your hair is not even a thing or a topic of discussion because they look at your hair and they're just like, oh, you look nice. Let's normalize it to where people don't look at folks with Locs or with their loose natural hair and be like, as if it changes the way that we're able to do our jobs or act on a daily basis. It clearly doesn't, but for whatever reason, people try to, whatever. I'm not going to get into that conversation right now. All right. And then the last one on my list is just the installation was simple for me. Like I said, I kind of hit on this earlier, but just it was easy for me to plait my hair myself. I didn't go in and do any grit or anything like that. It was all very simple. I kept it simple intentionally. And so I was just able to do my installation myself. I was able to do the braids myself, not have to rely on anyone else. It only took me about 4 or 5 days to do, doing it a couple of hours a day, or several hours a day, at night. But yeah, I wanted something that I could do myself, that I could maintain myself. And that's been awesome about this Loc journey, is that I started them myself. I've been maintaining them myself. I have no regrets about any of that. Sometimes when I'm in the middle of a retightening session, I'm like, man, I wish I would just pay somebody to do this for me. But then when I'm done, I'm like, oh, I'm so glad. It's like when you go to the gym and you're dreading going, And then once you're done with your workout, you're like, I'm so glad I came. I'm so glad I did this. I feel the same way with my retightenings. So I have enjoyed this journey every step of the way. Again, I've enjoyed every traditional lock journey that I've ever been on. I love them. Who know? I don't see myself, changing this set and going back, but who knows? Never say never, because I, I've changed my hair up so many times over the years. I know people are like, why can't you just stick with a style? So never say never. I could end up with traditional locks again one day in the future, but I'm loving this Microloc journey. I'm loving all the things that I've listed. Of just, it's been amazing, and I love interlocking and not having to worry about my maintenance for almost 2 months now, because I'm pushing it to 7 to 8 weeks now that my locks are maturing, and not having to do it so often. So it's just been a really great ride, and yeah, I love the way my locks look. They're healthy. My scalp is getting healthier. I just ordered some new shampoo that's supposed to help, medicated shampoo that's supposed to help with dandruff and stuff. So we'll see. Because my Head and Shoulders does help, but it doesn't fix the problem. And so I'm trying to see, I'm going to try to check out this new one that a couple of the flockers have mentioned, just to see if it helps to fix the problem anymore. So I'll let y'all know about that as I get it and start using it, and we'll go on that journey together. But I thank y'all so much for tuning in. Those that were here, those that are watching the replay, I thank you for that too. Drop in the comments and let me know, if you're traditional locks, if you're Microlocs, what your starter method was, why you chose to do the traditional locks or Microlocs. If you had that battle of trying to decide which one, let me know why you chose that. I just would love the conversation, and yeah, get to know y'all a little bit better. Thank y'all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.